Yeah, so we had this this lawyer essentially walk up to us, exactly the category of lawyer that we needed for this kind of event, and say, I love what you guys are doing. If you need any help, let me know. Pro bono. I know you don't have money, but he's here to help.
Matt Rice, God bless him.
Matthew Rice, he was shout out to him. He helped us extraordinarily,
extensively.
Yeah.
I also
pro bono.
And I also want to we mentioned the Jigsaw Renaissance, which is a makerspace in South Seattle. I'm not sure if we'd be able to get to this point without their generosity, and especially one of their tenants, named a guy by the name of Lion Kimbrough. I'm not sure, I haven't talked to him in years, but they took us in and let us use their makerspace to host a lot of our meetings and do a lot of our initial prop making and stuff. So that's the theme, is that when people saw what we were trying to do, they came in and said, how can I help? How can I help? What can we do to help move you guys along, to help make this happen? Because we could not do this by ourselves.
Yeah, we didn't have the concept of using like the con space. We in later years, obviously, we had the luxury of being able to have like staff meetings at the convention. It's the convention hall itself. But that first year, we just didn't have that capacity. So the Jigsaw Renaissance was our lifeline, and that's actually sorry, I won't talk about my apparel too much, but that's actually where this hoodie comes from as well.
Stand up again, turn around. He has had that hoodie since the very start of this venture.
It was there was three of us that obviously the CMC that we had one of my fondest memories from that early part was the first like staff barbecue we had on the rooftop of Jigsaw Renaissance. That was like that was us getting together to celebrate, like, we're about to do this and we don't have we have no clue what we're getting into, but we're gonna just be on the roof at Jigsaw, at the old immigration building where Jigsaw Renaissance was.
The Inkscape building down in
Chinatown. Just have fun before we descend into the madness that is starting doing this first year.
So let's talk about the madness for a second. When we announced Everfree Northwest, it was around Christmas of 2011, and we contacted Equestria Daily and said, hey, we have an announcement we want to make. It's going to be, we were announcing a convention, and there was like a teaser. And there was and I remember our graphic artist, Silvertail at the time, made this really cool Everfree Forest graphic, and it said like countdown or something like that. It said, what was it? It was like 8/17/12 or something like that, and it said, save the date. And then like a couple of weeks later, we announced Everfree Northwest, and we had our registration system was done in-house by a friend of mine, and because it was just, again, this is just, like, you think about 10 years ago, we were just talking outside in the hall about how much technology has changed. Like, we didn't have like an online con book at the time. It was pretty nuts. So we got our first venue was at the Holiday Inn, which is now the Crown Plaza. You saw in the video with that little thing at the top. And
I think it used to be a revolving restaurant when that was built.
It used to revolve. It didn't by the time we were there.
No, that would have been cool. I meant rotating opening ceremonies. That's a first.
Yeah, it's like, okay, never mind, it's over there. So we told the hotel, we said, okay, we expect around 750 people max for this convention, and we're planning to sell between 500 to 700 tickets. And we thought we had our work cut out for us. When we opened the server, when we opened the registration,
we opened with a guest announcement, right?
We have a guest announcement. Oh yeah, it was Tabitha.
It might have been Andrea first.
It was
Tabitha came later, I remember, because it was after one of the first sellouts. Tabitha was like another.
The second one.
The second time we sold out the first year.
Yeah,
the second time.
There's multiple stages sold out immediately.
But yeah, like, to just put a broader point on it, we had to actually shut down the registration server because double the number that we had budgeted for capacity signed up, and I think we estimated that if we had let that keep running, we would have had between 3,000 to 4,000 people for a venue. That was, we were elated and terrified, and we quickly decided to get a second hotel.
You were nervous-sighted.
If you're in any way, shape, or form involved with convention running, is 3 months before the start of the con is
The hill.
is not a thing that anyone would do. Like, and we did it. We got another hotel because, like, sure, that's just that just seems
The
logical,
Marriott.
right? That just seems logical. And yes, the hill. As I said in the video. Shortly, the next video was between 2012 and 2013. It's like the smart ones rode the bus.
I didn't even know there was a shuttle. Like, I heard that from someone else. So I was
Year 2, there's a shuttle.
I got my steps in for that day. For sure.
But to Mark Herring's point, we just didn't know what we were getting into really, and then we went ahead and opened up. We were like, well, we have another hotel. We have more space. We're going to be good. And we opened up registration again, and
yeah, well, I won't try to be too humble about this, but when we started the company, I think there were probably maybe a dozen people who met at your house total, and that included a couple people who could not be a part of the event full time, and a couple that were from Canada that could not be involved with the company. So the 7 people that actually signed up for it, I don't think anyone had prior experience running a complex event.
No.
Managing an event.
Just volunteering here or there. I mean, you guys are both enforcers, which counts for a lot. I mean, I definitely, I was happy for you guys to bring your expertise to bear. I had never even volunteered at a convention.
Yeah, I'd seen a little behind the scenes at Penny Arcade Expo enforcing for a few years, and that was kind of what gave me my motivation to, like, oh, we can totally do this. Yeah, no, we got this. Don't worry about it.
and that's I think that's what's sort of almost miraculous about it is that it actually functionally went off. Because really, I think we were just kind of muddling our way through as we went, and making decisions that I think anybody that has done this for a long time would never have made. But there's a phrase, sometimes you get through things because you don't know what's wrong.
And I know that Fates were with us. I mean, on like whether it's karma or whatnot, because there were behind the scenes. I mean, I can't even tell most of these stories, but behind the scenes, the con almost failed several times for various reasons. It was a little bit of chaos, a lot of fires to put out behind the scenes.
No one slept on Thursday night. Literally, not a wink. We didn't even put our heads on the pillow.
Yeah, we were fighting our way through, and I think one of the things that I'm proudest of about the con, not just 2011, but 2012, but I mean also like just throughout, is that we instilled in our staff a real deep understanding that what we were doing was for the people that were coming, the attendees. We were making this thing, and if there was anything that was going to go wrong, we were going to pull it out of, it wouldn't be in sight. We would be taking care of it. We would be fighting really hard to make it the best experience for the people, even if it made us go through a living hell sometimes.
I could probably talk a little bit about just from an attendee's perspective for that first year, because I was only an attendee for that very first event. And I had found out about Everfree from EQD. It was actually an EQD ad that I had seen just in the little sidebar on that website. And I saw that this is where the Space Needle thing paid off, because I saw that. I'm like, wait, what? Here? Really? And I hadn't had a whole lot of experience even going to conventions. Like, my very first convention I went to, period, was Emerald City 2012 at that TwiQuest meetup. When I kind of first got into the Seattle Bronies group, that was the very first, that was not the first meetup I went to. The very first meetup I went to was that rooftop barbecue at Jigsaw for that very last staff meeting, which was a really interesting introduction to kind of the way that a convention works. Sort of.
Or the way that our convention works.
Maybe so. but yeah, I think that's probably where I like met you for the first time, all of you really. But so the very first Everfree, I remember learning that that was taking place, and it's like, wow, okay, I have to go to this. And I ended up being a sponsor for that year. And from my perspective, I mean, Royal, you were saying like a lot of it is you're doing this for the attendees, and if there are problems, there's a lot of incentive and desire to, isolate that from the attendees to a degree such that it's not going to have a negative impact on their experience. It's a really important thing. As an attendee first year, I can say I thought if things were exploding, I had no clue, right?
We were very, very good about so I mean, we definitely tried to keep it out of sight, and trust me, there were plenty of near meltdowns.
The only thing I really remember is the first day reg system breakdown that resulted in day one being badgeless.
Do you want to talk about that?
You can probably go into the details, but like this is where it was very, very beneficial for us to be a sold out event. Because Thursday night, I assume, Friday morning, booted our reg system, not working. Things were not processing. I don't know exactly what was going on, but we ended up needing to, well, do you have details? Do you want to speak to this? It's just been so long.
God, so the first morning, the first day, the reg system breaks down. There's people waiting. There's people with their families, and like we didn't know what to do, so we put them all in the main hall in the Marriott because that's where registration was. And after a couple hours, we just said, you know what? I talked with Bajati because we were co-chairing that first year, and I said, badge free. And then we just got on the radios and said, okay, just let everyone in. We'll figure it out later, and we did. And that was like the first major snafu. But before that, there was one thing that happened that I wanted to share that was actually probably my favorite memory of all of Everfree the first year. And that was Thursday afternoon. I remember being in the lobby of it's at the Crown Plaza. And it was when I first started seeing people arrive. That was when I first started seeing people show up. And they were all dressed up, and they had all of their shirts on, and their swag, and sometimes cosplay, and the little wings to show that they were a Pegasus. And it blew my mind. That's when it really, really struck me. And I was like, they came. By God, they really came. They showed up. They're really here. This is really happening.
I still get that feeling every year.
It was the most gratifying part of the entire experience because I realized that that every single person who was in that lobby, who was stuck in their phone or live streaming because that was really new back then, and all of you right now, you all believed in us. You all believed in what we could do here. You trusted us to show you a good time, and we didn't want to let you down.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Incredible.
The way you describe that feeling is there's an element of that is still very much present. That's the same sort of feeling that I continue to get every time I start to see people trickle in on Thursday. It is a very special feeling, for sure. There's so much planning that goes in ahead of time that it's like time moves fairly slowly until you start getting closer to the event, and then you hit Friday and the weekend seems to go by really quickly. But that one first moment where you start seeing people show up and everything just pauses for a second, and it's like, yeah, we're here.
that is where the magic starts. That's where the magic turns on at the convention, because up until that point, it's you and the staff, and you guys are all, you're all making the sausage.
It was just an idea.
It's theoretical. It's like okay, this could just not happen at the last minute for whatever reason. But then when the attendees get there, that is when showtime starts.
Yeah, and when the stress really hits. Speaking of the first day of the convention, I have two things. One thing that showed up in that video that I think is one of my the things that I'm proudest of is the phrase "bringing Equestria to Earth for 3 days," because I am ecstatic that that has stuck, because that was that was the meaning of the convention. I think, you know, like there was, you know, even in 2012 there was a lot of strife and a lot of stuff going on, and we wanted to be a safe harbor for people and to really embody the 6 elements in a way that, you know, people didn't have to feel afraid while they were there. And I remember, you know, one of the most intense memories that I have of that day was, the first day was the sunrise celebration, and standing on stage, giving a quick speech, as evidenced in the video, where I look far too young, and it makes me very sad. But sorry, this is both heartfelt and somewhat funny, because I gave a speech that was about, like, all these people, you know, were at the, you know, McCary and Bajati weren't there, and there was a bunch of staff everywhere, and a lot of the staff at conventions obviously often get a little overlooked because they're, you know, there's those people that are standing on stage, there's the guests, and, you know, the people are doing a ton of work. And I was, you know, going through my speech trying to say, like, hey, you know, I'm not going to tell you who I am, because I don't want to be that guy. I want you to thank everybody that's here. And I walk off stage, and Lee Tokar, bless him, walks onto stage and goes, "That's Hans." And I'm like, you know, he outs my name like immediately. He's like, "I don't want to burst your anonymity, but that was Hans." And you know, it's the most aggravating moment, because I'm like, I was trying to do something really good, like really nice for everybody, please. And emblematic of, you know, this thing is that I think, tying back to that, I think that everybody, it is so amazing the amount of work that everyone did just out of the goodness of their hearts, really. You know, like, you know, every convention does this, I suppose, in the end, but the amount of dedication that I felt from these people, you know, from these two, but also everyone else on the staff, was extraordinary.
Yeah, I think we had somewhere to the order of 100 volunteers staffing for the first year, which is
Just for the first year
which
alone.
is honestly astounding. I don't know how other first cons even go about doing it. They probably outsource staffing to an agency or something, but we were able to fully force our volunteer staff from community members. Largely local, but a lot from around the country, honestly. People who came in saying, "I'm here to help. I'm here to help out for free."
Yeah, I got to tell you, everybody, like, if you see a staff member, take time to thank them, because
Please do.
they really, none of us got paid. We actually had to put, like, you know, our own blood, sweat, and tears, and sometimes money into this convention. Like, no one is doing this for money. It's absolutely out of our hearts. So it's, you know, everyone's here to help you and show you a good time, especially this dude here. And I want to say a little thing about Simul, because now we've talked enough about the three of us, but I want to talk about dedication. When I first met Simul, he was so eager to help that he actually volunteered to go with me. This is one of the first memories I have of you. He volunteered to go with me to a local sci-fi con that we were going to set up a table and promote Everfree.
This is RustyCon?
RustyCon, yeah. It was RustyCon, and one of the guys who was, like, helping us put this convention together said, "You should go to RustyCon and network." I'm like, "Okay, all right." So I did, and I didn't realize this at the time, but when he showed up with me, I actually had to sign on as his guardian, because he was so young. That he actually
was like 17.
Yeah, he was. I didn't know this, that he was that young, but he was so eager to help that you know, Simon, literally a kid, has been doing this since he was literally a kid. So seriously, hooves up for this guy.
That is a fun memory. That was an interesting experience. I get Seattle actually has a fairly rich culture of just local conventions, different scenes. RustyCon was an interesting experience. It was very much that sort of old guard sci-fi, where the demographic was on average 10 or 20 years older than our demographic tended to be. So I don't know how valuable it was advertising at the time, but it was very fun still.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience, and we got to hang out and get to know each other a little bit.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Mm-hmm. Learned all about your coffee obsession.
Oh God! So that I have to mention that like I got obsessed with specialty coffee when the three of us went on a trip to Vancouver. So one of the things, as an aside, just to kind of to bring us to this, we talked about all the people that have been so supportive in making this happen. I would be remiss in leaving out the cast and crew, because Seattle is uniquely positioned to be geographically close to Vancouver, which is where they were making the show. So a lot of what was going on behind the scenes was us going to Vancouver and trying to build bridges, because back then Hasbro was very, very nervous about the bronies. They didn't have their they talked. I remember being on the phone with the guy who was in charge of branding at the time, and said, "Oh, we got to maintain our brand integrity." Kept saying brand integrity, because they were very hesitant to let us have special guests at all from the show, because they weren't sure about these bronies. So we really had to go put our best foot forward and go to Vancouver and just kind of say here's who we are, here's what we're trying to do. And the cast and crew, the voice cast, the animation staff, they were so welcoming to us. They were so sweet to us, especially the production crew, because they didn't feel like a lot of people were as interested in what they were doing. Should I tell this?
I actually have to. I am double booked for a thing, so I need to.
Do you have to go? You have to go?
I have to go.
Oh.
Shortly, but I wanted to say I remember this. I remember two distinct trips to Vancouver. One with just Bajati, and one with when we went to talk to the guests and the agents. And the thing that will always stick with me is that some of the cast and crew just let us stay with them. You remember, we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. We were going to sleep in the park, and they just offered us their bed. It was really incredible. We stayed up and watched cartoons with them, and these people were are some of the kindest people that I had ever met. And the voice talent was also some of the most. They are unusual in who they are sometimes. But getting to meet the Creepers and and Vitokar, who is a character all his own, was an incredible experience. I need to go, but I wanted to say thank you all for being here. I mentioned earlier, my life would never have taken the path that it didn't if you all hadn't supported us. I came into this with a dangling on a thread, by one choice, right, and started on this journey. Because of it, a friend of mine from school managed to bring us to reached out to me again and brought me into a circle of a group, and that's where I met my wife. And because of this, because of my wife, and because of all this, the experience I gained here, I ended up moving from a job, and I started working for Wizards of the Coast. And in a weird sort of roundabout way, I worked for Hasbro. I worked on the My Little Pony cards for Magic. It's one of those things that is utterly incredible, and it would have never happened if not for the love that you all have for this, for this convention. I cannot begin to overstate that. I'll cry because it changed my life. My Little Pony did change my life in real, tangible, radical ways. And I know that that's an experience that I share with tons and tons of people. And it's one reason why you all are, it's the reason why you all guys are here. You all are here, still here and still here and have come here so many years. We're a decade on. And isn't that incredible? Friendship is magic.
Here's to the next decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Royal Coat for joining us. Royal Coat, everybody. All right, well, we do have an additional
The community had came together back in, should have been 2012 then, I believe so, 2012? Earlier, like spring of 2012, organized by Purple Tinker. If I remember, I don't know how long she was invested in the community, but quite a few number of years.
Founder of BronyCon.
I should give full introductions. Yeah. So the founder of BronyCon was organizing this charity event for anyone who wanted to donate something as a gift to the production staff, because we were trying to give back for this amazing show that we were given. And we got a whole gift bag of goodies that was mailed to my dorm room at UW.
Because you were the closest that she knew to geographically to the studio.
Geographically to Vancouver. And we booked a date to go up to it. And you're probably going to take over because
so I was the one with the car at that point. And this was back when we were like very still, like it was between announcing Everfree and having Everfree. But we thought, okay, we can bring these gifts up and give them to someone who works for production. And maybe, just maybe, they'll make it into the studio and people will see it, because we don't really know, we ended up booking a dinner. This was through you. You set up the dinner, and we ended up meeting. We ended up meeting Big Jim Miller and two of the other storyboarders, Sibsy Alberghetti and Raven Mullesy, and. This was so early on. This was before there were any kind of procedures or protocols or anything like that. And we had the sushi dinner, and we gave them these. So we had all these gifts in my car for the studio, and they were like, "Well, you just want to follow us back?" And I'm like, "Back to where?" And they said, "Back to the studio." And we're like, "Yeah, sure, that sounds good." So the studio, DHX at the time, where it had just been Studio B, just had changed names to JHX. Now they're Wild Brain. They can't make up their mind. But they used to have a location in Gastown, which was kind of a rough part of Vancouver. It still kind of is too, I think. But we ended up parking there. It was late. It was like at night. Everyone had gone home, and they brought us inside, up to this elevator into the studio that was completely dark. We were the only ones there, and I remember walking into this place thinking, "This is not happening. This is unreal. How did we end up here?" And do you want to take over from here?
I don't have a lot to add, but yeah, I mean that it's really phenomenal to walk into a room where literally the magic happens. There's animators on the other side of the world. I don't know what studio is taking care of that side, but the storyboarders. I don't know if you know a lot about how animation works. I would imagine probably more people in this room than most average groups probably do know a bit of the back end of the animation, but. Storyboarders have so much power in the final show, the final production, because they get to take both the scripts and the directions and put together all of the poses and the lines of action and how things fit together and the pacing like that. That is such an important part of a show that is good, and it can define a show that is phenomenal versus a show that is mediocre. And these storyboarders, oh my goodness, they were gems.
And they took us in. they took us in, and out of gratitude, out of appreciation for what we were trying to do, and they all the gifts went directly into the studio itself. Some of them actually ended up on the wall there, and I remember we stayed there. We must have been there for 4 hours. It was into the wee hours of the morning, and it was weird because we saw like Lauren Faust's office right after she'd left. So this empty office, where it's like, because it was like, oh, well, there was Lauren's office, and here's my office, and here's where I work, and it was phenomenal because seeing the process of how the magic is made was even added to the magic, because you saw these real people with real heart and real creativity pouring their hearts and souls into this for hours and hours and hours a day. So that was an incredible experience, and I think that having that really kind of cemented in our hearts just how much not only the community was with us, but the people making the show are with us too. Said, yes, go for this. This is so important. Please, we want to be a part of this too.
And it really solidified how we wanted to not just bring like the voice actors, the obvious people would know and appreciate at the convention, but we wanted to bring the writers and the storyboarders and the directors, whoever wanted to come down and experience the community that they built, the media that they created that sparked such a huge worldwide phenomenon. We wanted to see how many people would be a part of that, and we ended up pulling quite a number of production staff down for that first year.
Yeah, all 3 of them came down for the first year. And the following year they got their own panel. So, yeah, I mean, just cast and crew, just phenomenal people. I mean, that is why the show is the way it is. That is why it draws us all in like this, is because it actually has that kind of heart put into it. It's a real thing.
I gotta say, again, from an attendee perspective, the sheer amount of guests that you guys managed to get for that first year was a mind blow at the time, and it's still, I'm like, how did they pull that off? Maybe we can, I know you've got the very first Everfree con book here. We got a few fun things here we could look at, but is that the con book, or is that like a draft or a proof?
Yeah, this is probably not the first, because there were some color issues with the first ones, but this is the first
untrimmed.
I'll try to hold it really still for that, or maybe on the table.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's do this.
And that I remember the cover art. I believe was that Cosmic Unicorn.
Cosmic Unicorn. Yeah,
That's
look at
right.
that. This is unbelievable.
That spread is just gorgeous. Yeah. Is there anything up on there, or are we just sort of foolishly holding this?
Yeah, let's go to Everfree Northwest. Let me know if this is a thing we can do, because I'll hold it.
Cool. The other cool thing about this con book, I have mine somewhere at home still, but the margins, the way it progresses from day to night as you turn the page,